My beloved child, whatever is pulling at your attention right now can wait for a moment because I want you to hear me before you take another step. I am not speaking to you to make you afraid. I am speaking because I love you enough to prepare you before you move into something you have not fully examined. There is a difference between fear and preparation. Fear makes you rush. It freezes you. Preparation makes you slow down, look again, and choose with wisdom. My beloved child, that difference matters tonight. You have been moving through ordinary days. You handle responsibilities, answer messages, make plans, and try to keep everything together. But beneath the surface, something in your life has been shifting. A decision is becoming heavier. A relationship is revealing more than it used to. A habit you stopped questioning is beginning to cost you peace. A direction that once seemed simple now deserves another look. I am not telling you that disaster is hiding behind every corner. I want you awake. There is wisdom in noticing before acting. Remember how Nehemiah prayed before answering the king about Jerusalem. He did not confuse urgency with carelessness. He paused, prayed, and then spoke. The moment mattered, but he did not let pressure steal his judgment. My beloved child, I want that same steadiness growing in you. Before you answer, look again. Before you agree, ask another question. Before you trust a promise, watch the pattern behind the words. Before you walk through a door simply because it opened, consider where that door is actually leading. Not every opportunity deserves your yes. Not every familiar person deserves unlimited access. Not every comfortable pattern deserves another season of your life. Sometimes what drains you doesn't arrive dressed like trouble. They show up ordinary. That is why awareness matters. You may already feel a quiet hesitation around something. Do not worship that feeling and do not treat it as automatic proof that I have given you a supernatural warning, but do not dismiss it either. Let it invite you to pay closer attention. Ask what the facts are. Ask what has been repeated. Ask whether words and actions agree. Ask whether your peace is being disturbed because you are facing a difficult truth or because you are ignoring one. My beloved child, wisdom can hold both prayer and evidence at the same time. I am not asking you to live by impulse. I am asking you to become more honest about what you already see. There are moments when you know a conversation needs to happen, but you keep delaying it because silence feels easier. There are times when you recognize that a relationship is becoming one-sided, but you tell yourself to be more patient because you fear what honesty may cost. There are habits that leave you more tired, distracted, or restless, yet you keep returning to them because they are familiar. My beloved child, familiarity is not the same as safety. Something can feel normal because you have repeated it for years and still be leading you away from the life you are trying to build. This is why I am asking you to stop before you move. Take a breath. Let the pressure settle. You do not need to make every important decision while your emotions are loud. James wrote that if anyone lacks wisdom, they should ask me. Wisdom is not a mysterious prize reserved for a few people. It grows when you become willing to seek truth instead of merely asking me to approve what you have already decided. My beloved child, come to me honestly like that. Don't just pray and call it done. Also pray, then show me what's true. Don't just pray and leave this as it is. Also pray, help me recognize whether this relationship is healthy. Don't just pray and rush through the door. Also pray, give me courage to walk away if what is behind it does not belong in my life. That kind of prayer prepares you, and preparation gives you choices. You still have the ability to change direction. You still have the ability to say no. You still have the ability to delay an answer until you have more clarity. You still have the ability to set a boundary where you once stayed silent. My beloved child, a warning is not a sentence over your future. It is an invitation to participate wisely in what happens next. I would rather teach you to notice the small crack before the wall becomes unstable. I would rather help you hear the strange sound in the engine before you are stranded on the road. I would rather bring something uncomfortable into your awareness while you still have room to respond calmly. That is care. It may not always feel comforting at first, but care does not only soothe. Sometimes care tells the truth early. My beloved child, you've been worn down, and tired folks often run on autopilot. You have had days when another decision felt like one decision too many. You have had moments when you accepted what was easiest because you did not have energy to examine what was wisest. I understand that. I am not condemning you for being tired. I am asking you to let tiredness become a reason to slow down, not a reason to hand your choices over to pressure. You do not need hours tonight. You only need enough stillness to become present again. Put down the need to solve everything at once. Notice what keeps returning to your attention. Notice where you keep making excuses for a pattern that has not changed. Notice where you feel hurried to give an answer before you have enough information. Notice what repeatedly steals peace after promising relief. My beloved child, you do not need to fear what you discover. Truth is not your enemy. Clarity is not punishment. If something is healthy, careful examination will not destroy it. If someone is trustworthy, time will not make their character weaker. If a direction is wise, honest, questions will not ruin it. So do not rush forward merely because stopping feels uncomfortable. Stay here for a little while. Let your heart become quiet enough to hear what noise has been covering. I am not trying to trap you in fear. I am preparing you to move with open eyes. And before you can understand what may be hidden inside familiar choices, you must first understand why a loving warning is not something to fear, but something to receive with wisdom. My beloved child, now that you understand why I asked you to stop before you move, I want you to see something clearly. A warning from me is not a threat hanging over your life. It is not proof that you have failed. It is not a sentence declaring that something terrible must happen. A warning is often love arriving early enough to give you room to choose wisely. My beloved child, preparation is one of the quiet ways love protects what matters. Think about a parent who sees a child running toward a road. The voice becomes firm, not because love has disappeared, but because love has become urgent. The warning is not meant to shame the child for moving. It is meant to help them stop before movement becomes harm. I want you to hear me that way. There are moments when I comfort you. There are moments when I strengthen you. There are also moments when I ask you to pay attention because something deserves a second look. Do not confuse those moments with punishment. You still have the ability to step back from what does not belong in your life. My beloved child, wisdom does not panic when it receives a warning. It leans in to learn. It asks, what am I missing? What have I been excusing? What pattern keeps repeating? What is this situation producing in me over time? Those questions are not signs of fear. They are signs that you are learning how to live awake. Remember when Jesus told his disciples to watch and pray, he did not tell them to start suspecting everyone they met. He told them to remain spiritually awake so weakness would not quietly decide their actions. That kind of watchfulness matters now. You do need to notice patterns. My beloved child, one moment can be misunderstood. A pattern is harder to ignore. Someone may say the right thing once. Watch what they keep doing. Someone may apologize beautifully. Watch whether behavior changes. Someone may promise that they respect your boundaries. Watch what happens when your boundary costs them something. Someone may tell you they want the best for you. Watch whether they celebrate your growth or become uncomfortable when you stop being easy to control. Truth often reveals itself through repetition. That is why patience protects you. If you rush, appearances can make decisions for you. If you slow down, character has time to become visible. My beloved child, do not let urgency become a substitute for clarity. Anything healthy can survive an honest question. Anything worthy of trust can survive reasonable time. Anything aligned with truth does not need manipulation to force your yes. When someone says, you must decide immediately, pause. When a situation makes you afraid to ask questions, pause. When you feel pressured to ignore what you already know because someone promises everything will work out, pause. The pause is not weakness. It is space where wisdom can speak. There is another reason I am teaching you this. You have sometimes ignored what was in front of you. You wanted the outcome so badly. You saw inconsistency and called it complexity. You felt drained and called it sacrifice. You noticed disrespect and told yourself the person was simply under pressure. You kept waiting for potential to become character. My beloved child, compassion is good, but compassion without discernment can keep you attached to what is hurting you. You can understand why someone behaves badly and still refuse to let that behavior govern your peace. You can forgive and still keep your distance. You can love someone and still recognize that closeness with them is not healthy. You can pray for a person without handing them unlimited access to your life. This is not coldness. This is stewardship. I want you to treat your peace as something worth protecting, not because peace means avoiding every hard conversation, Sometimes truth creates temporary discomfort. Sometimes growth requires you to face what you would rather avoid. But there is a difference between honest discomfort that moves you forward and the confusion repeated instability breeds. Learn that difference. The discomfort of growth may challenge you, but it does not require you to betray yourself. Repeated instability keeps asking you to silence what you know in order to keep the situation alive. My beloved child, pay attention to what a connection repeatedly asks you to become. Does it make you more honest, more grounded, more responsible, more able to speak clearly? Or does it make you anxious, secretive, exhausted, and afraid to tell the truth? Fruit matters. Jesus taught that a tree is known by what it produces. Do not use that teaching to judge people harshly from one mistake. Use it to remember that repeated fruit tells a story. Look at what is growing. Look at what keeps falling from the branches. Look at what remains after the promises are finished. My beloved child, I do not want you living suspicious of everyone. That is not wisdom. Suspicion assumes guilt before truth has spoken. Discernment waits, observes, asks, and then responds to what is actually there. That is the steadiness I am building in you. You can remain kind without being naive. You can remain open without being careless. You can listen without surrendering judgment. You can give someone time without giving them endless excuses. You can be patient without abandoning yourself. My beloved child, protection is not only something you wait for me to do around you. There are ways you participate in protection through the choices you make. You lock a door at night. You read before you sign. You ask questions before making a commitment. You notice whether someone respects a no. You step away when a situation repeatedly becomes unsafe. You seek wise counsel when your emotions are too involved to see clearly. These are not signs that faith is weak. They are ways wisdom becomes action. I can guide you, and you can still use the mind boundaries, experience, and community I have given you. My beloved child, let this settle into you. A warning is not meant to make you afraid of tomorrow. It is meant to make you more awake today. You do not need to know every possible danger. You only need enough clarity to respond faithfully to what is in front of you. Slow down. Watch what people do over time. Listen carefully when words and actions no longer match. Ask for wisdom. Give truth room to reveal itself. And do not shame yourself if you notice something you missed before. Seeing clearly now is not failure. It is growth. My beloved child, I am teaching you to recognize trouble before it becomes deeply rooted. And the next thing you need to understand is that what harms your peace will not always arrive looking dangerous. Sometimes it arrives wearing the face of comfort. Sometimes it sounds familiar. Sometimes it feels harmless because you have known it for a long time. That is where I want to take you next. You must learn to recognize the danger that can hide inside familiarity. My beloved child, now you can see why I told you that not everything harmful announces itself with noise. Some dangers do not arrive looking dangerous at all. They come dressed as comfort. They sound familiar. They fit easily into routines you have repeated so often. You no longer stop to ask what those routines are doing to you. That is why familiarity deserves your attention. Something can feel normal simply because you have lived with it for a long time. A relationship can feel normal because you have grown used to being the one who always adjusts. A habit can feel harmless because it gives you quick relief at the end of a difficult day. A pattern of silence can feel safe because speaking honestly once created conflict. My beloved child, what is familiar is not always what is healthy. Sometimes the greatest cost enters your life quietly. It does not knock down the door. It is invited in because it looks like something you already know. This is why I am asking you to notice what you have stopped questioning. Think about Samson. His danger did not begin when everything finally collapsed around him. Long before that moment, he had grown comfortable ignoring repeated warning signs. What should have made him pause became familiar enough that he kept moving toward it. My beloved child, I am not telling you that story to make you afraid of folks around you. I am showing you what repeated familiarity can do when discernment goes to sleep. The heart can normalize what slowly weakens it. You can become used to being dismissed, used to being interrupted, used to being promised change without seeing change, used to carrying responsibilities that should have been shared, used to saying sorry just to smooth things over, even when you were not the one who broke it. used to living tired. And after enough time, you may stop calling these things problems. You simply call them life. My beloved child, look again. Ask yourself what you've learned to tolerate just because it's been there for so long. Does it leave you clearer or more confused? Does it strengthen your peace or steadily drain it? Does it make you more truthful or teach you to keep hiding? Does it help you grow or does it keep you trapped inside the same emotional circle? These questions matter because small choices accumulate. One compromise may seem insignificant. One ignored boundary may seem easier than a difficult conversation. One night of avoiding what needs attention may not change much. But when repeated, small decisions become direction. My beloved child, a path is rarely formed by one dramatic step. It is formed by what your feet keep choosing. You may think I am only concerned with large moral decisions or obvious turning points, but I also care about the conversation you keep postponing, the exhaustion you keep calling normal, the habit that steals your attention, the friendship that leaves you feeling smaller every time you leave, the decision you keep rushing because you are afraid that waiting will cost you the opportunity. Remember the wisdom of Proverbs that tells you to guard your heart because the direction of life flows from it. Guarding your heart does not mean building walls around every emotion. It means paying attention to what repeatedly enters, settles, and influences your decisions. My beloved child, familiar comfort can sometimes become a hiding place. You may stay busy because stillness makes you face what you have been avoiding. You may keep returning to the same person because uncertainty feels more frightening than disappointment you already understand. You may keep saying yes. The discomfort of saying no feels unfamiliar. You may keep scrolling, spending, eating, working, or distracting yourself long after the activity stops helping you rest. I am not condemning you for the ways you learned to cope. Some of them helped you survive difficult seasons. But what helped you survive one season may not be what helps you grow in the next. There comes a time when a coping pattern must be examined. My beloved child, survival cannot remain your permanent address. I want more for you than simply getting through another day. I want you awake enough to recognize when something comfortable has begun to cost too much. You stop pretending you do not see what you see. You let truth enter the room. You give yourself permission to say, this pattern is no longer helping me. You allow yourself to admit, I am more tired than I've been willing to acknowledge. You recognize, this relationship keeps asking me to abandon my own voice. You notice, this habit gives me relief for a moment and leaves me emptier afterward. My beloved child, awareness is where change begins. And once you become aware, do not rush into shame. Shame will only make you hide again. Bring what you see to me honestly. Ask for wisdom. Ask for courage. Ask for patience. Then pick one small thing that moves you toward peace. Maybe that response is delaying a decision. Maybe it is having a truthful conversation. Maybe it is getting some rest before answering. Maybe it is asking someone trustworthy what they see. Maybe it is putting distance between you and something that has been taking more than it gives. My beloved child, you do not have to solve your entire life in one night. You only need to stop walking blindly through what has become familiar. I'd rather help you turn early than try to comfort you after you ignored what was already becoming clear. That is love with foresight, and there is another reason this matters. You have been carrying more than most people realize. Sometimes you did not ignore warning signs because you lacked wisdom. You ignored them because you were exhausted. You were too tired to examine another problem, too tired to have another difficult conversation, too tired to ask whether something was healthy. You simply kept moving because stopping felt like one more responsibility. My beloved child, I saw that too. I know the difference between stubbornness and weariness. I know the difference between someone refusing to listen and someone who barely has enough strength left to hear. That is why I am not ending this lesson with accusation. I am ending it with compassion. If familiarity kept you in places longer than wisdom would have chosen, bring that truth to me without fear. You are allowed to wake up slowly. You are allowed to notice what you missed. You are allowed to change direction without hating the version of you who stayed. My beloved child, the next thing I want you to understand is deeply personal. There were seasons when you thought your silence disappointed me. There were times when you believed you should have responded sooner, prayed better, listened more clearly, or been stronger than you were. But I knew how tired you had become. And while you thought I was waiting in frustration, I was waiting with patience. That is where I want to take you next. My beloved child, there were seasons when you thought your silence disappointed me. You believed you should have answered sooner, prayed more clearly, or listened more carefully. You did not have the strength you thought you should. You looked at your hesitation and called it failure. I did not. I knew how tired you were. I knew the difference between resistance and exhaustion. I knew when your heart was not turning away from me. It was simply trying to survive another day without falling apart. My beloved child, I waited through that exhaustion with patience, not with folded arms, not with disappointment, not counting the days until you finally became spiritual enough to deserve my attention. I stayed near. There were nights when you felt the urge to pray, but the words would not come. You sat in silence, stared at the ceiling, or closed your eyes. You hoped I could understand what you could not explain. I did. There were mornings when you wanted to reach for me, but responsibilities arrived first. Someone needed you. Work demanded you. Bills needed attention. Your mind was already full before the day properly began. I saw that too. My beloved child, your silence was not invisible to me. Sometimes silence is not rebellion. Sometimes silence is what happens when a person has carried too much for too long. You had been strong in rooms where nobody noticed the cost. You kept showing up even as your strength wore thin. You answered people when you wanted to be left alone. You solved problems while your own heart remained unattended. You told others that you were fine because explaining the truth felt like another task. Then you wondered why prayer felt difficult. My beloved child, I was never confused about what was happening inside you. Think about Elijah after the victory on Mount Carmel. He reached a point where he was depleted, afraid, and ready to give up. I did not begin by giving him a lecture. He was allowed to sleep. He was given food. He was met in weakness before he was asked to move again. Remember that. I do not always meet exhaustion with another demand. Sometimes I meet it with rest. You have feared disappointing me because you imagined I expected you to arrive with certainty. I never asked for that. I asked for honesty. If you are confused, tell me you are confused. If you are angry, bring the anger. If you are tired, stop pretending you are not. If you are afraid of what obedience may require, say that plainly. My beloved child, honesty opens a deeper door than performance ever could. There were times you delayed because fear shouted louder. You wondered whether listening to me would mean losing something you loved. You worried that truth might force you to admit a relationship was unhealthy. You feared that wisdom might ask you to change a plan you had already defended. You were afraid that coming closer would expose places you had worked hard to hide. I understood all of that. Fear did not make me leave. Your hesitation did not make me withdraw. I did not stand at a distance waiting for you to become fearless. I remained close enough for you to return when you were ready to be honest. My beloved child, there were also moments when you questioned whether you were hearing me at all. A thought came during stillness and you wondered if it was guidance or imagination. That uncertainty did not offend me. Discernment takes time. You are allowed to test what you think you are hearing. You are allowed to ask whether it agrees with truth, wisdom, character, and the fruit it produces. I do not need you to pretend certainty in order to stay close to me. My beloved child, you have also been carrying the fear that you waited too long, and a quiet accusation formed inside you. Maybe I missed my chance. Hear me clearly. You have not become unreachable because you were slow. Grace is not as fragile as your fear makes it seem. I am not offended the way people sometimes are. I do not withdraw love because you needed more time. Peter denied Jesus in fear, yet his story did not end in that courtyard. He was met again, questioned, honestly restored, and given responsibility. My beloved child, failure does not erase the possibility of return. Delay does not cancel relationship. Exhaustion does not make you unworthy of care. I have been patient with you because patience is part of love, and patience does not mean I ignore what needs to change. It means I make room for change, to become honest. There were paths I did not let move as quickly as you wanted. You thought nothing was happening, but sometimes slowing down protected you from moving while you were too tired to see clearly. Sometimes the delay gave you time to notice what pressure had hidden. Sometimes unanswered questions kept you from committing to something before your heart had enough strength to examine it. My beloved child, not every delay was a divine intervention. I do not want you turning every closed door into a secret message, but I do want you to recognize this. Your slower seasons were not empty simply because they were slow. You learned in them. You discovered what exhaustion had been covering. You began noticing how often you confused constant effort with faithfulness. You began to understand that I can be present even when emotion does not make my presence obvious. This matters because some of your deepest shame came from believing you had failed spiritually. That belief came whenever you felt numb. You thought real faith should always feel alive. You thought prayer should always feel meaningful. You thought you should wake every day certain, grateful, focused, and strong. My beloved child, you are human. There are days when faith feels like a song. There are days when faith looks like simply refusing to walk away. There are days when the most honest prayer is only "help me." I hear that prayer. I hear the breath before it. I hear the thought that never becomes sound. I hear the sentence you start and cannot finish because emotion rises too quickly. You do not have to impress me with language. You do not have to find the right religious phrase. You do not have to make your pain sound beautiful before you bring it near. Come as you are. Come tired. Come unsure. Come with questions. Come without a speech prepared. My beloved child, I have waded through your exhaustion because I knew that love cannot bully a weary heart into trust. Trust grows where honesty is safe. That is why I kept drawing near without demanding performance. And now that you are beginning to understand this, I want you to look at the prayers you assumed disappeared in silence, the words you never finished, the tears that interrupted your sentences, the questions you could not say aloud. My beloved child, they were not lost. What you could not speak still reached me, and that is where I want to take you next. My beloved child, what you could not speak still reached me. The prayer that stopped halfway through a sentence did not disappear. The thought you were too tired to finish was not wasted. The ache you carried into the quiet hours was not hidden because nobody else could hear it. I heard the question beneath the question. I heard the fear beneath the silence. There were nights when your body was exhausted and your mind refused to rest. You wondered whether you spoke too quickly, waited too long, trusted too much, or walked away too soon. You tried to solve yesterday in the middle of the night. You thought that thinking harder could change what had already happened. My beloved child, I was there in those hours, closer than the thoughts in your mind. You may have believed prayer only counted when you could form the right words, but I have always heard more than words. Hannah's grief was so deep that her lips moved while almost no sound came out. Others misunderstood what they saw, but I did not misunderstand her heart. My beloved child, I do not need volume in order to hear you. I do not need polished sentences. I do not need you to explain every emotion before I understand what is happening inside you. Sometimes your prayer has been a tear. Sometimes it has been a long breath. Sometimes it has been the thought, I do not know what to do. There were questions you began and then stopped because you were afraid of the answer. Why did this happen? Why did they leave? Why does this keep repeating? Why do I feel lonely when people are all around me? My beloved child, those questions did not make you faithless. They made you honest, and honesty is not something I punish. You have carried loneliness that was difficult to explain because you were not always physically alone. You could sit with people, answer messages, smile. Still, you could feel as though nobody had reached the place inside you that was hurting. Others saw how well you handled responsibilities. I saw how often you wished somebody would ask how you were doing and stay long enough to hear the real answer. I saw the moments when that composure cost you more than anyone knew. My beloved child, being surrounded is not the same as being known, and being useful is not the same as being understood. There were times when you became the strong person because everyone expected you to be. You listened to other people. You carried their worries. You solved what you could. Then when the room became quiet, your own feelings finally had space to rise. That is when the tears sometimes came. Not because one small thing had suddenly broken you, because you had been holding many things without release. My beloved child, none of those tears embarrassed me. You did not need to wipe them away quickly for my sake. The Psalms speak of tears being noticed and remembered. Let that image comfort you. What hurt you mattered. What exhausted you mattered. What you grieved in private mattered. I am not telling you that every painful event was arranged for a hidden purpose. I am telling you that pain does not become meaningless simply because nobody else saw it. There were moments when you thought, if anyone really knew what I was thinking, they would see me differently. You feared that your questions would make you look weak. You feared that your anger would make you look ungrateful. You feared that your sadness had lasted too long. You feared that your hope was foolish because disappointment had already visited more than once. My beloved child, I know the parts you edit before showing them to people. I know the thoughts you soften. I know the memories you avoid because you do not want to feel them again. I know the places where faith and doubt sit beside each other, and I do not turn away. You do not have to divide yourself into acceptable and unacceptable pieces before coming near me. Bring the whole heart. Bring the part that trusts and the part that is still learning. Bring the part that wants to forgive and the part that is still angry. Bring the hope that remains, even when you fear hope will hurt again. My beloved child, being completely known can feel frightening when people have used what they learned about you against you. Someone learned where you were vulnerable and later touched that wound carelessly. Someone heard your private fear and dismissed it. Someone received your honesty and made you regret giving it. That history can teach you to hide, even from love. But I am not asking you to pretend that trust should come easily after being hurt. I am asking you to let my presence become a place where you no longer need to perform. You can come without rehearsing. You can come without defending yourself. You can come without proving you deserve comfort. My beloved child, I am present inside the struggle, not only at the end of it. I am with you before the answer arrives. I am with you while the question is still open. I am with you while healing remains unfinished. I am with you when your faith feels strong, and I am with you when all you can manage is one tired sentence. That is why your silent prayers matter. They remind you that relationship with me is not built on performance. It is built on truth. And truth can be quiet. My beloved child, there is another reason I want you to believe you are heard. When people feel unseen for too long, they can begin accepting attention from places that are not safe, simply because being noticed feels better than being ignored. They can confuse being pursued with being valued. They can mistake someone asking personal questions for someone capable of handling personal truth. They can stay near people who drain them because loneliness makes distance feel unbearable. I do not want your hunger to be known to make you careless about who you trust. The comfort of being heard by me should strengthen your discernment, not weaken it. You do not need to hand your deepest places to everyone who shows interest. You can be open and still wise. You can be compassionate and still observe patterns. You can forgive and still recognize when someone is unsafe. You can love people without allowing every person equal access to your inner life. My beloved child, your private tears were heard. Your unfinished prayers were received. Your loneliness was seen. Your exhaustion was understood. You are not invisible, and because you are beginning to believe that you no longer need to chase recognition from people who repeatedly mishandle what you give them, that is where I want to take you next. Now that you know your heart has been heard, it is time to examine the people patterns and repeated choices around you with clearer eyes, so that the need to be understood no longer keeps you attached to what quietly steals your peace. My beloved child, now that you know your heart has been heard, I want you to look closely at what's around it. Being seen by me should make you less desperate for approval, not more inclined to overlook what people keep showing you. You do not need to become suspicious. You do need to become honest. Some people in your life speak warmly, but their patterns wear you out. Some connections look supportive, but feel different when you're the one carrying most of the weight. You keep hoping the next conversation will finally change what the last one's already revealed. My beloved child, look gently, but look clearly. I am not asking you to accuse anyone without evidence. I am asking you to notice what repeats. Words create an impression. Patterns reveal deeper direction. My beloved child, these questions are not cruel. They protect you from building a future on what you hope is true. They stop you from ignoring what is happening. There is also a pattern inside you that deserves attention. When something feels uncertain, you sometimes move faster instead of slower. You rush to fix. You explain too much. You send another message. You offer another chance before the last one has been understood. You try to remove discomfort immediately because uncertainty makes you anxious. My beloved child, urgency has sometimes made decisions for you. Sometimes you were choosing from the fear that if you paused, you might lose the person, the opportunity, or the outcome you wanted. But what is healthy does not become less healthy because you take time to think. Truth does not disappear. because you ask another question. A trustworthy person does not need your confusion in order to remain close. This is why I want you to practice the pause. Before responding, breathe. Before agreeing, sleep on it if you can. Before explaining yourself again, ask whether the other person is listening. Before giving another chance, ask what has changed besides the words, "My beloved child." Reflection is not weakness. It is one of the places where self-respect becomes visible. Think of Jesus when people tried to trap him with questions. He did not let every demand control his pace. At times he answered directly. At times he asked a question in return. At times he withdrew. He was not governed by pressure. I want that freedom growing in you. You do not owe every situation an immediate answer. You do not owe every person instant access to your emotions. You do not need to decide something important simply because someone else is uncomfortable with your need for time. My beloved child, slow decisions can still be courageous decisions. There is something else I want you to examine. Sometimes you have confused potential with reality. You saw who someone might become and began relating to that future version instead of the person standing in front of you. You imagined how peaceful the relationship could be if they communicated better, how meaningful the opportunity could become if one major problem disappeared, how different the situation would feel if the same promise were finally kept. Hope can be beautiful, but hope without evidence can keep you waiting inside a pattern that is already speaking. My beloved child, I am not asking you to stop believing people can grow. People do grow. You have grown. Growth truly bears fruit. It shows up in choices, consistency, humility, repair, and time. You do not need to call potential progress before progress appears. Let people show you who they are becoming. Let actions carry the weight that promises cannot carry alone. And look at your own patterns with the same honesty. Where do you keep abandoning your needs to avoid conflict? Where do you keep making excuses because admitting the truth would require change? Where do you keep returning because familiar pain feels easier than an unfamiliar future? Where do you keep asking for a sign when the pattern is already clear? My beloved child, awareness is not an invitation to shame yourself. It is an invitation to interrupt what has been automatic. You can notice a pattern without hating the version of you who created it. Maybe that pattern once helped you survive. Maybe staying quiet kept conflict from becoming worse. Maybe over-explaining once helped you feel safer. Maybe saying yes protected you from rejection. But you are allowed to learn a new response now. Instead of over-explaining, you can say what is true once. Instead of chasing after distance, you can let someone show whether they return with responsibility. Instead of assuming a difficult feeling means something is wrong, sit with discomfort long enough to understand it. Instead of making another promise to yourself and forgetting it, choose one concrete action. My beloved child, let your response to this message be practical, not a transaction, not an attempt to earn blessing. Choose one honest act. Write down the pattern you keep repeating. Have the conversation you have delayed. Ask someone wise for perspective. Take an evening without making the decision that has been pressuring you. Remove one source of noise long enough to hear your own thoughts. Prayer should not become a way to avoid responsibility. Prayer and responsibility can stand together. Nehemiah prayed and he also posted guards. Faith does not ask you to ignore what is happening. Faith gives you courage to face it truthfully. My beloved child, there may be someone near you who does not fully understand your worth. That does not automatically make them evil. They may be limited, immature, self-focused, unaware of how their behavior affects you. But their lack of malicious intent does not mean the impact on you is harmless. A person can hurt your peace without planning to. A relationship can drain you, even if nobody is consciously trying to destroy anything. That is why intention and impact both matter. Look at what happens inside you after repeated contact. Do you feel respected? Do you feel free to speak honestly? Do you feel pressure to become smaller? Do you leave every conversation trying to figure out what you did wrong? Do you feel responsible for managing their mood? My beloved child, your answers are information. Use them carefully. Do not turn every uncomfortable feeling into a verdict. Do not dismiss repeated discomfort because you are afraid of what it might require. Sometimes wisdom begins when you stop arguing with your own observations. You are learning to trust yourself in a healthier way, not blindly, not arrogantly, with evidence, with prayer, with time, with wise counsel. And as your awareness becomes clearer, the next step is not to control everyone around you. It is to protect what you allow to shape your inner life. My beloved child, examining people and patterns is only useful if it changes what you permit, what you postpone, what you confront, and what you release. That is where I want to take you next. You have looked more carefully at what surrounds you. Now you must learn how to protect your peace before you make the decisions that will shape what comes next. My beloved child, now that you have looked more carefully at the people and patterns around you, I want to take you one step further. Awareness becomes powerful when it changes what you permit. It also changes what you postpone, what you confront, and what you release. You cannot protect your peace only by noticing what disturbs it. At some point, wisdom must become a decision. Your peace is valuable, not because peaceful people never face conflict, not because every right choice feels easy, but because a settled mind helps you see more clearly than a pressured one. There are places where you have stayed too long because leaving felt uncomfortable. There are responsibilities you carried because you feared that saying no would disappoint someone. My beloved child, boundaries are not punishment. They are not walls built to prove that you no longer care. A boundary simply names what you can responsibly carry and what you cannot. It tells another person where access ends. It tells pressure it does not get to set your timing. Think of Jesus when crowds wanted more from him. There were moments when he withdrew to pray. There were moments when he moved on, even though people still wanted his attention. He did not treat every demand as an assignment. My beloved child, neither should you. Not every request deserves a yes. Not every crisis belongs in your hands. Not every opinion deserves a place inside your mind. Some of your exhaustion came from giving equal weight to everything. You carried moods that belonged to other people. You let small disturbances take up too much room inside you. That is changing. Protecting your peace means learning what deserves your energy. There is also a decision connected to your future. It may still be sitting quietly in your mind. Perhaps it concerns work, perhaps a relationship, perhaps a move, a commitment, or a direction you have considered for months. You may have examined the options and still feel unsettled. My beloved child, do not panic. Clarity might not arrive as quickly as you wanted. Uncertainty is sometimes an invitation to gather more information. It may be telling you that another conversation is needed. It may be telling you to wait until emotion becomes quieter. It may be telling you to ask for counsel from someone who is not personally invested in the outcome. Do not turn one unsettled feeling into a supernatural verdict. But do not silence repeated concern either. Bring it into the light. Ask what is known. Ask what is assumed. Ask what would still be true if fear were removed from the room. My beloved child, what is genuinely healthy for you should never ask you to betray your own judgment just to keep it. If an opportunity cannot survive a reasonable question, pay attention. If a person becomes angry whenever you need time to think, pay attention. If a decision must be made immediately, only because someone else benefits from your hurry, pay attention. Pressure is information. It does not always mean the answer is no, but it is often a reason to slow down. Remember the wisdom in Proverbs about plans succeeding through counsel. You do not become weak when you seek perspective. You become less vulnerable to the blind spots created by strong emotion. My beloved child, wise people do not surrender their responsibility to others. They listen, they consider, then they choose. I want you growing into that kind of steadiness. Every time you choose awareness over impulse, something inside you becomes stronger. You begin trusting that you can survive another person's disappointment. You discover that saying no does not destroy every relationship worth keeping. You learn that waiting for clarity does not mean you are afraid to act. You begin seeing that peace is not passivity. Peace can say no. Peace can leave. Peace can ask hard questions. Peace can wait. Peace can also move decisively once truth is clear. My beloved child, I am not asking you to withdraw from life. Do not become so focused on protection that nobody can reach you. Do not turn discernment into isolation. A healthy boundary does not close every door. It helps you know which doors should remain open, which should open slowly, and which should stay closed. Now look at the direction of your current choices, not only the dramatic ones. Look at the ordinary rhythm. What receives your attention before your heart has become quiet? What do you repeatedly consume that leaves you anxious? What do you keep postponing, even though finishing it would give you relief? My beloved child, your repeated habits shape more of your future than one emotional decision ever will. A path is formed through steps. A strong life is formed through rhythms. If you continually choose noise, stillness will feel unfamiliar. If you continually avoid difficult tasks, pressure will keep growing. If you continually give everyone immediate access, resentment will eventually follow. If you continually neglect rest, you will begin making decisions from depletion. That is why I want you to protect your everyday peace, not only your peace during crisis. Choose one small change. Put the phone down earlier. Answer tomorrow instead of tonight. Finish the task you have been avoiding. Take a walk before making the call. Write the facts down before your imagination adds a story. Pray before you react. My beloved child, small practices create inner room, and inner room helps you recognize what deserves your yes. You have spent seasons feeling as though life was happening to you faster than you could respond. Now you are learning to participate differently. You are slowing down. You are protecting what matters. You are becoming less willing to trade peace for temporary approval. This is not selfishness. It is responsibility. You cannot offer healthy love from a place of constant depletion. You cannot make wise decisions if every voice around you is louder than your own conscience. My beloved child, protect the quiet place where truth can reach you. Then move from there. And as you begin living this way, something else will become possible. Your mind will have enough space to notice not only what must be released, but also what is already supporting you. You will begin to recognize resources you overlooked, people who genuinely care, small forms of relief, strength returning slowly. Provision does not always begin with something dramatic. Sometimes it begins when confusion clears enough for you to see what has already been placed within reach. My beloved child, you have spent several parts of this journey learning what to question, what to slow down, and what to protect. Now I want to turn your attention toward hope, not fantasy, not a guarantee that every closed door will open exactly as you want. Hope grounded in the truth that you are not required to carry every need alone. There are forms of help, rest, wisdom, and provision you may be ready to receive. You are no longer wasting all your strength fighting what should have been released. Protect your peace before you decide, then let that peace make room for what can genuinely bring relief. My beloved child, now that you are learning to protect your peace before you decide, I want you to notice what that peace makes possible. When confusion becomes quieter, you can finally see what fear kept hidden. You begin to recognize help that was already near. You begin to remember that you were never asked to solve every need with your own strength. My beloved child, I have heard the pressure you have carried. I have seen the bills that made your chest tighten. I have seen the responsibilities waiting before the morning began. I have seen you calculate, postpone, stretch, and adjust. I have seen you wonder how long you could keep doing more with less. What happens if this does not work? What happens if another expense arrives? What happens if I am already too tired to keep carrying this? My beloved child, I am not ashamed of those questions. Need does not make you weak. Asking for help does not make you faithless. And receiving relief does not mean you failed to handle life on your own. This is why I want you to receive hope. Don't turn that hope into fantasy. Provision can take many forms. It may come through work you had not considered, through a conversation that gives you useful information, through a person who offers practical help, through a decision to cut what is draining your resources, through courage to ask for assistance instead of pretending everything is fine, through an opportunity that grows slowly rather than arriving as a dramatic rescue. My beloved child, do not limit help to one shape. Remember the widow in the days of Elisha. She came with a real problem and real debt. She had very little in her house. The answer did not begin with pretending she had more than she did. It began with honestly naming what remained and using what was already within reach. There is wisdom in that. Look again at what is in your hands, not with shame, with attention. What skill have you stopped valuing because it feels ordinary to you? What connection could offer guidance if you were willing to ask what expense continues only because you have not reviewed it? What responsibility are you carrying that could be shared? What small resource have you dismissed because It does not look large enough to matter. My beloved child, provision often begins with seeing clearly. You have spent so much time focusing on what is missing, you may have stopped noticing what is available. This does not mean every shortage disappears overnight. It does not mean one prayer guarantees sudden money. It means scarcity does not have to become the only story your mind knows how to tell. You can acknowledge the need and still look for the next responsible step. You can be honest about pressure and still believe that pressure is not permanent. You can ask me for help while also making a plan. Prayer and practical action can stand together. My beloved child, there is relief in that. You can pray for provision, update the budget. You can ask for direction and make the phone call. You can trust me and seek counsel. You can hope for an open door and still prepare yourself to walk through it wisely if it opens. This is mature hope. It does not demand that tomorrow obey your imagination. It keeps your heart from collapsing simply because today is unfinished. My beloved child, I also know you are tired of always feeling one step behind. You have solved one problem only to see another waiting behind it. That rhythm can teach your mind to expect scarcity even after the immediate crisis passes. You begin expecting loss. You hesitate to enjoy anything because you are waiting for the next expense. You feel guilty when you rest because part of you believes survival requires constant motion. My beloved child, I want to loosen that grip, not by promising you a life where nothing difficult ever happens, by teaching you that your identity does not have to be organized around lack. You are more than what you owe. You are more than what your bank balance says today. Your worth does not rise when resources increase. It does not fall when resources are limited. Let that truth give you room to breathe. There may be forms of relief that begin small. A payment plan that reduces pressure. A conversation that helps you understand your options. A healthier schedule. A new skill. A repaired relationship. A decision that stops money, time, or emotional energy from leaking into something that no longer deserves it. My beloved child, small relief is still relief. Do not reject it because it is not dramatic. A place to sit matters to someone who has been carrying weight. Receive what is genuinely helpful. Receive wisdom. Receive support. Receive rest when rest is available. Receive the reminder that your story is not finished simply because the current chapter is difficult. My beloved child, I have seen what you carried in secret. I have heard the prayers you whispered over your home, the prayers for stability, for work, for enough, for the people you love. I will not reduce those prayers to a formula. I will not tell you that faith guarantees a specific financial result on a specific date. But I will tell you this: you do not have to meet uncertainty alone. You can keep bringing your needs to me. You can keep asking for wisdom. You can keep taking responsible steps. You can keep receiving help without shame, and you can remain open to forms of provision you did not predict. My beloved child, sometimes renewal begins before circumstances look renewed. It begins when panic no longer makes every decision. It begins when you stop hiding the truth from yourself. It begins when you sleep instead of spending another night rehearsing the same fear. It begins when you ask someone for help. It begins when you stop feeding a habit that keeps you depleted. It begins when hope becomes quiet enough to work beside wisdom. That is the kind of renewal I want you to recognize. Not noise, not spectacle. A steady return of strength, a little more room in your thoughts, a little more courage in your decisions, a little less fear in the way you look at tomorrow. My beloved child, this is not the end of what I want to show you about relief. Provision matters, but so does the heart that receives it. If you have been exhausted for a long time, even good things can feel difficult to receive. Your body and mind have forgotten how to rest, so let hope enter gently. Let help be help. Let enough for today be enough for today. And now I want to take you deeper into that next need. Not only provision in your hands, but renewal in your inner life. Not only solving what is urgent, but learning how to rest without guilt. Receive what is small without contempt, and allow strength to return before you ask yourself to carry more. My beloved child, that is where I want to take you next. My beloved child, you have been carrying the hope of relief. Now let that hope reach deeper than your circumstances. Provision matters, but so does rest. Help matters, but so does renewal. You were not created to spend every day moving from one obligation to another. You were not made so exhaustion feels normal and peace feels unfamiliar. I know how tired you have become. Not only physically, your mind has been carrying lists that never seem to end. Your heart has been carrying concerns you rarely say out loud. Even when you sit down, part of you is still working. Even when the room grows quiet, your thoughts keep moving. My beloved child, I see that weariness, and I do not despise your need for rest. You have sometimes treated rest as a reward you must earn after everything is finished, but everything is never finished. There is always another message, another bill, another person who needs something, another task waiting for tomorrow. If you only allow yourself to rest when nothing remains, you will keep postponing rest until your body and spirit demand it from you. Remember how Jesus invited the weary and burdened to come near and receive rest. He did not say, finish every responsibility first. He spoke to people who were already carrying too much. My beloved child, hear that invitation again. Rest is not laziness when it restores what constant pressure has taken from you. Rest is not irresponsibility when it helps you return with clearer judgment. Rest is not selfish when it keeps resentment from growing inside a heart that has given without stopping. You are allowed to breathe. You are allowed to enjoy a quiet meal without feeling guilty because someone else has a problem. You are allowed to sleep. You are allowed to laugh while parts of your life are still unfinished. My beloved child, renewal often begins in ordinary places. A slower morning, a walk without a phone in your hand, a conversation that does not require you to perform, a meal eaten without rushing, an hour when you stop solving tomorrow. These things may seem small, but don't shrug off small beginnings. You have spent so long waiting for dramatic relief that you may overlook the quieter ways strength returns. Think about the loaves and fish placed in Jesus' hands. What looked too small for the need still became part of what he used. The point is not that every small resource will become a miracle on command. The point is that you should not dismiss what is available simply because it appears modest. My beloved child, look at what is already helping you recover. A friend who listens without making everything about themselves. A routine that helps your mind settle. A little extra time. A useful skill. A place where you feel safe enough to stop pretending. A decision that removes one unnecessary burden. Small things can create space for larger healing. You have also cried over seasons that seemed to produce nothing. You prayed, you kept going, you tried to remain faithful, and still some months felt like bare ground. My beloved child, I am not promising that every tear will earn you a future reward. Your pain is not a currency, but what you learn through those seasons does not have to be lost. Patience was formed. Discernment was sharpened. Compassion deepened. You discovered that you could survive what once frightened you. You learned that your life could continue even after plans changed. These are not small things. There are parts of you that became stronger quietly. And now, I want that strength to become lighter, not harder. You do not need to carry old pain as proof that you survived it. You do not need to drag every memory into the next season. Healing does not require forgetting. It means the past no longer has to control every present response. My beloved child, let me renew the way you think. Scarcity may have taught you to expect loss. Disappointment may have taught you to prepare for rejection. Exhaustion may have taught you that your needs always come last. But those beliefs do not deserve permanent authority. You can learn another rhythm. You can receive something good without immediately asking how long it will last. You can enjoy an easier day without assuming something bad must follow. You can accept kindness without searching for the hidden cost. You can let relief be relief. My beloved child, joy is not a betrayal of what you suffered. You do not honor a hard season by staying miserable after it begins to pass. If you smile, you have not forgotten what hurt. If you rest, you have not become careless. If you receive good news, you do not need to apologize for feeling grateful. There is wisdom in allowing the heart to recognize goodness again. The Psalms speak of those who sow with tears and later return with joy. I want you to hold that image carefully, not as a guarantee that every loss will be replaced exactly as you want, as a reminder that sorrow does not have to be the final emotional language of your life. My beloved child, renewal is learning that joy can return without asking permission from the past. There are chains I want you to stop dragging forward. The belief that you must prove your value through exhaustion, the fear that resting will make everything collapse, the habit of saying yes before checking what you can realistically carry, the guilt that appears whenever you choose yourself for a moment. Set those down, not all at once if you cannot, one link at a time, one healthier decision at a time, one honest boundary at a time. My beloved child, I am not calling you into a life without responsibility. I am teaching you how to carry responsibility without allowing it to consume your whole identity. There is a difference. You can be dependable and still have limits. You can serve others and still need care. You can work hard and still stop. You can love deeply and still say, I cannot carry this for you. That is not failure, that is maturity. And as renewal reaches you, you may begin noticing something else. Some people will make room for the healthier version of you. Others may resist it. Some will respect your need for rest. Others may prefer the version of you who was always available. Some will celebrate your stronger boundaries. Others may call them distant because unlimited access once benefited them. My beloved child, do not be surprised by that difference. Rest changes what you tolerate. Renewal changes what you recognize. A clearer mind notices which relationships bring steadiness and which ones repeatedly leave you depleted. The people closest to you will honor that growth or keep asking you to abandon it. This is why the next part matters. You are not only learning how to receive rest, you are learning how to protect the life that rest is rebuilding. And that will require you to welcome the right connections. It will also mean releasing the ones that keep pulling you back into exhaustion. My beloved child, rest has begun to change what you can see. When your mind is no longer surviving every hour, you start noticing the difference between people who strengthen your life and people who repeatedly drain it. It changes what you are willing to keep carrying. Some connections make room for you to breathe. Some require you to shrink before peace can exist. Some people listen when you speak honestly. Others only seem comfortable when you stay quiet and available. My beloved child, I want you to pay attention to that difference without becoming bitter. Not everyone who drains you is evil. Some people are wounded, some are immature. Some are accustomed to receiving more than they give. Compassion can understand their limitations. Wisdom still decides what access they should have. You have spent seasons believing love meant staying close no matter what the relationship was doing to you. You mistook loyalty for endless availability. You thought forgiveness meant returning to the same level of closeness. You feared distance would make you seem cold. My beloved child, love and access are not the same thing. You can care and still step back. You can forgive and still require change before trust grows again. You can pray for someone and still refuse to let their chaos fill your days. My beloved child, sometimes a relationship can have been meaningful for one season and still no longer be healthy in the same form. But do not imprison the future by insisting every past connection must continue forever. There are people who may belong closer to you as you become healthier. People who respect your boundaries without making you explain them repeatedly. People who can celebrate your progress without turning it into competition. People who can hear no without punishing you. My beloved child, welcome that kind of connection slowly. Do not idealize someone because they feel different from what hurt you. Let character reveal itself. Let time speak. Let mutual care become visible through ordinary choices. It joins you in a way that makes honesty, responsibility, and growth easier to practice. You may also notice some existing relationships becoming uncomfortable as you change. The version of you who overgave may have been convenient for certain people. The version of you who never challenged disrespect may have kept things easy. The version of you who always answered immediately may have trained others to expect unlimited access. When you change those patterns, resistance can appear. My beloved child, do not confuse someone else's discomfort with proof that your growth is wrong. But do not abandon a healthy boundary simply because someone preferred you without it. There are also relationships that may fade without a dramatic ending. Fewer messages, less emotional dependence, less need to explain yourself, a quieter distance. My beloved child, every ending does not require a courtroom. Sometimes release looks like no longer forcing what has already become one-sided. Sometimes peace enters because you stop trying to make a connection become something it has repeatedly shown you it cannot be. And acceptance can free energy. Energy you once spent analyzing someone can return to your own life. Time spent recovering from unnecessary conflict can become time for rest. Attention pulled towards someone else's instability can return to work, prayer, family, and health. It can return to responsibilities belonging to you. My beloved child, relational pruning can feel like grief and relief at the same time. You may grieve someone and still know distance is wise. You may love memories and still refuse to recreate the pattern. You may feel lonely for a while and still be moving towards something healthier. My beloved child, loneliness after a boundary is not proof the boundary was wrong. Sometimes your nervous system needs time to become familiar with peace. And while some connections loosen, remain open to healthier ones. Do not decide that every new person will eventually disappoint you. Do not make yesterday the admission requirement for tomorrow. You have more discernment now. Use it. Ask better questions. Move more slowly. Notice reciprocity. Notice whether someone respects your life outside the relationship. Notice whether honesty creates understanding or punishment. My beloved child, trustworthy relationships do not demand that you abandon yourself in order to belong. They make room for two people to remain responsible for their own choices while still caring for each other. Every close relationship needs mutual respect, and as you practice this, I want you to remember your worth. You spent too long allowing other people's attention to decide how valuable you felt. When they came close, you felt chosen. When they pulled away, you questioned yourself. When they ignored your needs, you searched for what you should change. My beloved child, another person's capacity to recognize your worth does not create your worth. You were formed with dignity long before anyone chose to appreciate you. Remember how David was overlooked when Samuel came to Jesse's house. Being left in the field did not make him less seen by me. My beloved child, being overlooked by someone is not the same as being without value. Let that truth become stronger than old words spoken over you. You are not too much because you need respect. You are not selfish because you need rest. You are not unlovable because a relationship ended. Your worth is not a vote taken by everyone who has known you. And now I want you to see your quieter seasons differently. There were times when you thought nothing was happening because certain connections were fading and no new direction had become clear. You interpreted the silence as emptiness, but silence gave you room to hear what constant relational noise had covered. You noticed your own preferences again. You learned where your limits were. You began distinguishing peace from numbness. You discovered which relationships survived when you stopped performing. My beloved child, that was preparation. Preparation for a healthier way of living, a stronger inner foundation, a clearer understanding of who belongs close and why. And once that foundation begins to hold, the road ahead can look different. You are no longer choosing direction mainly from fear of being alone. You are no longer asking every open door to prove your worth. You are becoming able to walk forward with less emotional clutter in your hands. My beloved child, release what repeatedly drains what you are trying to rebuild. Welcome what shows healthy fruit. Let relationships earn their place through truth, time, mutual care, and consistency. And as the noise around you becomes quieter, you may begin to notice something you could not see before. The quieter your life becomes, the easier it is to notice which connections bring steadiness, which ones drain you, and which doors deserve thoughtful attention before you move. A new path, a new direction, an opportunity or responsibility that was difficult to recognize while your energy was tied to old patterns. That is where I want to take you next. Not into wishful thinking that every door will open, but into the courage to take the new path you see when you stop walking backward. My beloved child, with some of the old noise growing quieter, you can start to see what used to be hard to notice. When draining connections lose their grip and old patterns stop deciding every step, the road ahead starts to look different. Not because every question has been answered, but because you finally have enough space inside to notice where growth is asking you to move. Now please pay attention to that. A new path does not always arrive with a dramatic sign. Sometimes it begins as a responsibility you are finally ready to accept. Sometimes it looks like an opportunity you would have walked past a year ago. Sometimes it is a conversation that changes the way you understand what comes next. Sometimes it is simply the courage to stop walking in a direction that no longer fits who you are becoming. My beloved child, growth rarely stays confined to one area. When your thinking becomes clearer, your decisions begin changing. When your boundaries become healthier, your relationships begin changing. When your peace becomes stronger, the way you approach work, money, rest, and purpose begins changing too. My beloved child, do not rush to name the whole future. Walk with what is clear. You have spent too much time believing guidance must arrive as one complete map. Often I give enough light for the next step. That is how trust becomes practical. Remember Abraham. He was told to go before he knew every detail of the destination. He moved with what had been revealed and learned along the way. Sometimes you know enough to take one responsible step. Make the call. Submit the application. End the habit. Begin the conversation. Ask for help. Return to the work you abandoned. Discouragement convinced you it was pointless. One step can be faithful, even when you do not know where every later step will lead. My beloved child, there may be things you need to stop carrying into this new direction. You cannot keep walking forward while gripping what has already been released. Old resentment drains energy. Old comparisons take energy. Old fantasies about how something should have ended take energy. The need to prove yourself to people who no longer belong close to you takes energy. Every bit of energy spent staring backward is energy you cannot use to walk wisely now. This does not mean forget everything, let memory teach you. But memory should not become the steering wheel. My beloved child, let the past become information rather than instruction. Take the lesson. Leave the chain. You may be entering places you have never been before. That can feel exciting and unsettling at the same time. A new role may ask more confidence from you. A new responsibility may expose skills you have not fully trusted. A healthier relationship may require you to stop using defenses that once felt necessary. A new season may force you to make decisions without the approval you used to depend on. My beloved child, unfamiliar does not automatically mean wrong, and familiar does not automatically mean safe. You have learned that already. So when a new path opens, do not judge it only by how comfortable it feels. Ask whether it aligns with truth. Ask whether it supports responsibility. Ask whether it makes room for integrity. Ask whether you can walk it without abandoning your values. If the answer continues to be yes, take the next step with humility. I want you to understand something else. An open door is not always a command. An opportunity can be real and still require discernment. You are allowed to examine it. You are allowed to ask what it costs. You are allowed to look at timing, responsibilities, motives, and consequences. My beloved child, wisdom is not fear. Wisdom is what keeps hope from becoming impulsive. There were times when you chased opportunities because you were desperate to escape your present life. You thought anything different must be better. Now you are learning another way. You can move towards something new without running from yourself. Take your clarity with you. Take your boundaries. Take your honesty. Take the lessons you earned through difficult seasons. My beloved child, there may be wilderness moments ahead. Times when you know you cannot go back, but the road forward still looks incomplete. Do not panic there. Scripture speaks through Isaiah of a new thing springing up, of a way being made through wilderness and water appearing in dry places. Hold that image carefully. Do not use it to promise yourself that every obstacle will disappear. Use it to remember that a difficult landscape does not mean movement is impossible. A wilderness can still contain a path. Dry ground can still teach you where to look for what sustains life. My beloved child, some of the new direction you need may already be forming quietly. A person offers information. A skill becomes useful. A door opens that you did not expect. A closed option forces you to consider a stronger one. An old dream returns in a more mature form. Pay attention without turning every event into a sign. Let patterns become clear through time. Let wise counsel help you. Let prayer deepen your honesty. Let practical preparation keep pace with hope. This is how you follow a new path without losing your footing. My beloved child, you have asked for clarity. Sometimes clarity arrives because the fog disappears. Sometimes it arrives because you take one step and discover what becomes visible from there. You do not need certainty about the whole road to move faithfully today. Do what belongs to today. Prepare what can be prepared. Release what is already proven finished. Keep your hands open enough to receive something different. And remember that new direction is not only about where you are going, it is also about who you are becoming while you go. You are becoming more deliberate, more honest, less controlled by urgency, more willing to let truth correct your plans, more capable of carrying responsibility without making fear your guide. My beloved child, that inner change may be one of the greatest signs that the path ahead is becoming clearer, because when you change, you begin seeing possibilities that the older version of you could not recognize. And some of those possibilities may require gifts, ideas, courage, and wisdom that have been quiet inside you for a long time. Do not assume they are gone because they have not been used recently. A gift can rest without dying. A calling can become quiet without disappearing. A skill can wait for a season when you are finally ready to carry it differently. My beloved child, keep walking the path in front of you. Stay teachable and let each faithful step reveal what follows. The next part of this journey is not only about doors around you, it is about what may be waking within you as you approach them. That is where I want to take you next. You have begun to see the road. Now it is time to awaken the gifts that may help you walk it with greater wisdom, courage, and purpose. My beloved child, you have begun to see the road ahead more clearly. Now I want you to look inward. Some of what you need for the next season is not waiting somewhere far away. Part of it already sits inside you, quiet beneath years of responsibility, disappointment, distraction, and survival. There are gifts you stopped trusting, ideas you stopped writing down, strengths you used so naturally that you assumed they were ordinary. My beloved child, quiet does not mean gone. A seed beneath the ground can look inactive while life is still present inside it. A skill can rest for years and still return with practice. A calling can become buried under responsibilities and still begin breathing again when space opens. Do not confuse dormancy with death. You may have once been more creative, more curious, more willing to try something without knowing whether you would succeed. Then disappointment taught you to become careful. Pressure taught you to become practical. Other people needed things from you. The parts of you that did not feel urgent moved to the background. My beloved child, I saw that happen. I am asking you to notice what has been waiting for your attention. Paul told Timothy to stir up the gift that had been placed within him. Notice the language. He was not told to invent a gift from nothing. He was told to tend what already existed. My beloved child, there may be something in you that needs tending again. Perhaps you communicate in a way that helps people feel understood. Perhaps you solve problems others avoid. Perhaps you create, organize, teach, build, write, repair, lead, encourage, listen, or see patterns quickly. Perhaps you have wisdom that came through difficult years and could now help someone else walk more carefully. Do not dismiss these things because they feel normal to you. But gifts do not become useful only because they exist. They need discipline. They need practice. They need humility. They need time. My beloved child, I do not want you waiting for a dramatic feeling. Begin using what is already in your hands. Start small. Write the page, make the call, practice the skill, take the course, offer the help, finish the project you keep restarting. Clarity often grows while you are moving responsibly. You have also prayed for fresh ideas. Sometimes fresh ideas do not arrive like lightning. Sometimes they appear after you create enough quiet to hear your own thoughts. Sometimes they come because you finally understand a problem that once confused you. My beloved child, do not make inspiration mysterious when steady effort will help you recognize it. There is practical wisdom ready for you whenever you remain teachable. James wrote that wisdom can be asked for, so ask. But when insight comes, examine it. Does it lead toward truth? Does it make you more responsible? Does it require deception, manipulation, or the abandonment of your values? Does it serve something meaningful beyond your ego? My beloved child, not every exciting idea deserves pursuit, but fear should not reject every idea before it has been examined. You have lived long enough under the belief that maybe your best years were behind you. I want you to challenge that belief. Age does not erase usefulness. A delayed beginning is still a beginning. A person who has learned through failure may carry wisdom that younger confidence does not yet possess. Moses did not step into the work that defined his life while he was young and certain of himself. He had known exile, limitation, and hesitation. My beloved child, your slower years have not automatically made you late. They may have changed the way you carry what you know. You are less impressed by noise now. You understand consequences better. You recognize character more carefully. You know what happens when people build quickly without foundations. That knowledge can make your gifts more grounded than they were before. Do not only ask, what am I good at? Ask, what can I now carry responsibly? A gift without character can create damage. Influence without humility can become pride. Opportunity without boundaries can become another form of exhaustion. My beloved child, awakening what is hidden in you does not mean saying yes to everything. It means learning how to steward what matters. You may begin noticing that something which once took enormous emotional effort now feels clearer. That is not magic acceleration. It may be the fruit of everything you have already learned. Experience shortens certain lessons. Discernment helps you avoid old detours. Healthier boundaries protect time. A calmer mind makes decisions faster. You are no longer arguing with the same old fears. My beloved child, growth can feel faster when you stop repeating what once slowed you down. That is different from promising that every dream will suddenly happen. Some things will still take time. Some doors will remain closed. Some ideas will need revision. Some attempts will fail. But failure no longer has to convince you that the gift was imaginary. That is how capacity grows. There may also be people who notice a change in you, because steadiness becomes visible. You speak differently when you trust your own judgment. You carry yourself differently when you stop begging for approval. You approach opportunities differently when you know your worth does not depend on success. My beloved child, let your growth speak quietly. You do not need every onlooker from your hard days to watch you rise. You do not need old critics to admit they were wrong. The strongest evidence may be private. You finish what you start. You sleep more peacefully. You say no without collapsing into guilt. You use a gift you abandoned. You become useful in a way that feels honest rather than performative. My beloved child, remember that awakening is not always emotional. Sometimes it looks like discipline returning. Sometimes it looks like curiosity returning. Sometimes it is the courage to begin again without demanding applause, certainty, or immediate results from the work in front of you. My beloved child, I want you hopeful about what can still awaken in you. But stay grounded. Let gifts be tested through service. Let ideas be refined through reality. Let opportunities be examined through wisdom. Let growth remain connected to humility. Do not turn one encouraging moment into a prediction about your entire future. Receive it as encouragement for the next faithful step, and protect what is beginning to grow. Not everyone needs immediate access to your plans. Not every idea needs to be announced before it has roots. Not every private hope becomes stronger when it is exposed to every opinion. My beloved child, some things need a quiet room before they are ready for public light. You have learned to walk toward a new path. Now you are remembering that you carry gifts that can help you walk it. The next lesson is about stewardship. As something valuable begins waking inside you, you must grow wiser about where you place your trust, what you reveal, and who gains access to what is still being formed. That is where I want to take you next. My beloved child, now that you are beginning to recognize the gifts, ideas, and strength waking inside you, I want you to learn how to protect what is still forming. Not everything growing in your life needs immediate exposure. Not every plan needs an audience. Not every hope becomes stronger because more people know about it. Some things need quiet before they need visibility. A seed is not weak because it begins underground. Roots grow where nobody's clapping. My beloved child, there is wisdom in allowing something to become steady before you place it in the hands of people who may not know how to carry it. You have shared too quickly before. You were excited. You trusted someone. You wanted encouragement. You believed that because a person was close to you, they would automatically understand what mattered to you. Sometimes they did. Sometimes they did not. There were moments when something you shared in confidence later returned to you as gossip, criticism, pressure, or a weapon in an argument. That stung worse than the original disagreement because you'd offered something private. My beloved child, I remember that, and I do not want pain to turn you into someone who never trusts again. The lesson is not tell nobody anything. The lesson is learn where trust belongs. Jesus did not relate to every person at the same level of closeness. Crowds heard him. Disciples walked with him. A smaller circle saw moments others did not. My beloved child, different relationships can carry different levels of access. That is not deception. That is discernment. You do not owe your whole story to everyone who asks a personal question. You do not need to explain every decision to someone who has not shown that they can disagree without becoming disrespectful. You do not need to announce a new direction before you have had time to pray and think, prepare and test whether it is wise. Privacy can protect growth. My beloved child, secrecy hides what should be brought into the light. Privacy simply recognizes that not every person belongs in every room of your life. Learn the difference. If something involves wrongdoing, danger, or a burden you should not carry alone, reach toward trustworthy help. But if something is simply tender, unfinished, or still becoming clear, you are allowed to let it mature before exposing it to every opinion. There is another part of this lesson. Pay attention to how people handle what you reveal. Do they listen carefully? Do they ask thoughtful questions? Do they immediately make the conversation about themselves? Do they mock what you value? Do they repeat what you told them privately? Do they pressure you to reveal more than you are ready to share? My beloved child, trust is built through what someone repeatedly does with small pieces of access. You do not need to hand someone the keys to every room just because they were kind at the front door. Let trust grow in stages. Let time reveal character. Let consistency speak. You have sometimes called someone trustworthy because you wanted the relationship to feel safe. Now I want you to look at evidence. A trustworthy person does not need to be perfect, but they should be teachable. They should be able to apologize. They should respect a boundary after it is clearly stated. They should not punish you for needing space. They should not use your vulnerability to control your decisions. My beloved child, where trust lands shapes how freely your heart can breathe. This is why the source of peace matters. You may notice that certain conversations leave you calm enough to think clearly. Others leave you tense, confused, or replaying every sentence for hours. Do not make one body reaction into a divine verdict. Your body can react because of stress, past wounds, fatigue, or misunderstanding. But repeated reactions are information worth examining. Ask what happened. Ask what was said. Ask whether a boundary was crossed. Ask whether this person has shown the same pattern before. Bring prayer, evidence, and wise counsel together. My beloved child, discernment becomes stronger when you refuse both extremes. Do not ignore every uneasy feeling. Do not worship every uneasy feeling. Investigate. Stay present. Let reality speak. There are rooms where you feel free to be honest. There are rooms where you automatically begin editing yourself. There are people around whom you can disagree and remain respected. There are others around whom one small disagreement becomes emotional punishment. My beloved child, notice the difference. Peace is not proof that every comfortable place is right for you, and discomfort is not proof that every challenging place is wrong. Sometimes healthy growth is uncomfortable. Sometimes unhealthy dynamics are familiar enough to feel normal. That is why you need more than a feeling. You need fruit. You need patterns. You need time. You need truth. Guarding what you reveal also means learning not to speak from emotional overflow. You have had moments when hurt made you explain too much. Moments when loneliness made you tell someone more than they had earned the right to know. Moments when anger made you reveal something simply because you wanted the other person to understand how deeply they had affected you. My beloved child, pause before disclosure becomes regret. Write it down first. Pray, sleep. Talk with someone proven wise. Then decide what actually needs to be said and to whom. A healed voice does not have to tell every truth to every person. It learns what truth belongs in which conversation. What you protect today may become strong enough to share tomorrow. You are giving wisdom time to strengthen your judgment, your boundaries, your voice, and the work that is still taking shape. My beloved child, this matters especially as new things begin growing in you. A new idea can be discouraged by careless criticism before it has enough roots. A healthier boundary can weaken if you keep asking people who benefited from the old pattern whether your new boundary is acceptable. A new habit can become harder to protect if you keep placing it in environments built around the old one. Guard the early stage, not forever. Long enough for strength to form. Think of Nehemiah rebuilding the wall. He did not announce every detail of his plan before the work began. He inspected quietly. He understood what needed repair and then moved with purpose. My beloved child, there is wisdom in that sequence. Observe, prepare, choose trustworthy people, then act. You are not becoming secretive. You are becoming responsible with what has value. And as you become wiser about access, another challenge will appear. Pressure will not last forever. The season that taught you these lessons will begin to ease. When it does, the temptation will be to relax your awareness, return to familiar habits, and reopen doors you finally learned to close. My beloved child, do not lose in comfort what you learned through difficulty. That is where I want to take you next. When the storm begins to pass, you must learn how not to return to the patterns that once emptied your peace. My beloved child, when the storm begins to pass, do not mistake relief for permission. Remember what the storm taught you. Pressure can leave, but wisdom must remain. The danger is returning to the habits that made you vulnerable once the weight begins to lift. You have done this before. You prayed intensely while the crisis was close. You watched your choices carefully because you knew they mattered. You guarded your time. You noticed who brought peace and who brought confusion. Then the pressure eased. The urgency faded, and little by little you reopened the same doors you had finally learned to close. My beloved child, I do not say this to shame you. I say it because growth is not proven only by what you do when life forces you to pay attention. Growth becomes visible when you keep choosing wisely after the emergency has passed. My beloved child, the same can happen in you. A difficult season may end while an old pattern still waits nearby. You may feel stronger and assume you no longer need the boundaries that helped you recover. You may begin sleeping better. You may slowly return to the schedule that exhausted you. You may stop feeling lonely and reopen communication with someone whose pattern has not changed. You may regain financial breathing room and return to spending that once increased your pressure. You may feel emotionally stable and stop doing the small practices that helped you become stable. This is why I want you awake even after the storm. Not anxious, awake. You do not have to live as though another crisis is always coming. You simply need to remember what helped you stand. My beloved child, keep the habits that brought clarity. Keep pausing before important decisions. Keep protecting your rest. Keep watching actions over promises. Keep asking whether your choices lead toward peace or back toward confusion. Keep making room for prayer before pressure forces you into it. Wisdom should become part of your ordinary life. It shouldn't be only your emergency response. There is strength inside you these hard seasons have been bringing out. You may not have noticed it while you were simply trying to survive. But look at yourself now. You can recognize manipulation faster. You can say no with less explanation. You can sit with uncertainty longer without rushing into the first available answer. You can notice when exhaustion is beginning before it becomes collapse. You can admit that something hurts without allowing pain to control every decision. My beloved child, that is resilience. Resilience doesn't mean acting like nothing touches you. It is the ability to be affected without being destroyed. It is learning how to bend without losing your center. It is knowing when to rest, when to speak, when to wait, and when to walk away. There will come a day when you speak about this season differently. Right now, some memories may still feel close. Some choices may still feel unfinished. Some questions may still remain. But later you may tell someone about what you walked through and hear steadiness in your own voice. My beloved child, testimony is not pretending the pain was good. It is recognizing that pain did not get the final word. You are still here. You are learning. You are choosing differently, and that difference matters. There is another old habit I want you to watch carefully. You have doubted your own judgment. Even after experience had given you reasons to trust it, you noticed something felt wrong, but you told yourself you were overthinking. You saw inconsistency, but you assumed you were being unfair. You felt pressure, but you ignored it because you did not want to disappoint anyone. Then later the pattern became clearer. My beloved child, I do not want you to become arrogant about your instincts. Your feelings can be wrong. Past wounds can make safe situations feel threatening. Fear can distort what you see. But that does not mean you should silence every inner warning. Learn to test what you notice. Ask for evidence. Look at patterns. Give time room to speak. Seek wise counsel. Pray for clarity. Trust does not mean believing every feeling. It means becoming honest enough to examine what keeps returning to your attention. My beloved child, this is how your judgment becomes stronger. You stop saying, "I always get this wrong." You begin saying, "I can slow down and look carefully." You stop handing responsibility for your choices to other people. You begin taking ownership of what you allow, what you continue, and what you leave. That is maturity. And maturity becomes especially important after pressure lifts, because comfort can make you careless. When life becomes easier, you may think you can afford to ignore the small things again. But small things are where direction begins. One missed boundary becomes another. One unhealthy habit becomes a routine. One excuse becomes a pattern. One ignored warning becomes a larger problem. My beloved child, do not become afraid of small mistakes. You will still make them. You will still have days when you respond poorly. You will still become tired and need to reset. The goal is returning more quickly to what you know is healthy. If you notice yourself slipping, adjust. If you overcommit, correct the schedule. If you reopen a draining conversation, step back again. If you neglect, rest. Begin again tonight. If you react from fear, apologize where needed and choose differently next time. My beloved child, one wrong step does not require you to walk the whole old road again. That is another lesson I want you. Quesi, quetsit, quetsit, quetsin, 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 quetsin. You do not have to turn a mistake into a relapse. You do not have to say, I ruined everything. You can notice, correct, continue. Grace gives you room to return. Remember Peter after denying Jesus. He did not remain defined by his worst moment. He was restored to responsibility, but he did not forget what his weakness had revealed. It meant becoming more honest about himself and more dependent on grace. My beloved child, let your own restoration work that way. Do not erase the lesson once you feel better. Do not romanticize the version of your life that exhausted you. Do not reopen old cycles simply because time has softened the memory of what they cost. Peace can make pain feel distant. Wisdom remembers enough to protect what peace rebuilt. That is what I want for you. A steady life, not a fearful one. A life where awareness remains even after urgency leaves. A life where you do not need another crisis to remind you to listen. My beloved child, the storm may pass, but the strength it uncovered can remain. Let resilience become practice. Let discernment become habit. Let boundaries become normal. Let peace become something you protect before it is threatened. Because the next lesson is about turning this awareness into something you can carry every day, not as suspicion, not as tension, as a quiet shield around your mind and heart. That is where I want to take you next. My beloved child, the storm may pass, but the strength it uncovered can remain. Let resilience become practice. Let discernment become habit. Let boundaries become normal. Let peace become something you protect before it is threatened. Now I want to show you how awareness can become a quiet shield around your life. Not suspicion, not tension, not the habit of looking for danger in every room. Awareness is simply the choice to remain present enough to notice what matters. It keeps pressure from making the decision for you. My beloved child, you have spent too many seasons moving through life distracted, overextended, and emotionally tired. When the mind is crowded, small signals are easy to miss. A change in someone's behavior, a promise that keeps becoming less reliable, a habit that slowly begins stealing more time than you intended, a conversation that leaves you unsettled every single time, a schedule that looks manageable on paper but leaves your body exhausted. Awareness notices these things early. It does not immediately turn them into a crisis. It simply says, pay attention. That pause can protect you. Think about a watchman standing on a city wall in Scripture. The watchman was not there to invent enemies. He was there to see clearly, stay awake, and respond when something really needed attention. My beloved child, that is the kind of awareness I want in you. You do not need to be afraid of every shadow. You need enough stillness to tell the difference between a shadow and something real. This is why peace matters. A panicked mind reacts before it understands. A settled mind can observe. You have let too many small things unsettle you by treating every interruption as important. Every message felt urgent. Every opinion felt personal. Every change in someone's tone felt like something you had to fix. Every disagreement pulled too much energy from you. My beloved child, not everything deserves a reaction. Some things deserve silence. Some deserve time. Some deserve a question. Some deserve to be ignored. Some deserve a boundary. Wisdom helps you know the difference. There is freedom in realizing that you do not have to answer every provocation. You do not have to defend yourself every time someone misunderstands you. You do not have to explain a healthy decision to someone committed to seeing it negatively. You don't have to carry someone else's mood like it's your job. My beloved child, every unnecessary reaction spends energy, and your energy has value. Protecting peace means becoming more selective about where that energy goes. Before you respond, ask what the moment actually requires. Does this need action? Does this need clarification? Does this need prayer? Does this simply need time to pass? That question can save you from turning a small disturbance into a larger one. Remember how Jesus sometimes answered accusations and sometimes remained silent. Silence was not weakness. It was discernment about what deserved engagement. My beloved child, you can learn that too. You are allowed to choose where your voice is useful. You are allowed to let some noise die without feeding it. This does not mean avoiding responsibility. If you have harmed someone, repair what you can. If a real issue needs conversation, speak honestly. If something unsafe is happening, act. But do not confuse responsibility with constant emotional participation in everything happening around you. Awareness helps you separate the two. I also want you to notice changes in yourself. When do you become more reactive? When are you most likely to abandon your boundaries? When does your mind become easier to overwhelm? Perhaps it happens when you are sleep deprived. Perhaps when you have been isolated too long. Perhaps after contact with certain people. Perhaps when work pressure has been building quietly. My beloved child, knowing your patterns is part of protection. You cannot always control what arrives, but you can learn the conditions that make you more vulnerable to poor decisions. That knowledge is not shame, it is preparation. If exhaustion makes you impulsive, protect rest before major choices. If loneliness makes you reopen unhealthy doors, stay connected to trustworthy people. If anger makes your words reckless, make space before you reply. If fear makes you overthink, return to facts. These simple practices form a shield stronger than panic ever could. My beloved child, peace is not passive. Peace can be trained. You train it each time you pause rather than snap back. Each time you tell the truth without trying to control the outcome. Each time you let someone be disappointed without abandoning a necessary boundary. Each time you return your attention to what is actually yours to carry. That is how steadiness grows, and people may begin noticing it. Not because you announce that you have changed. Because you stop being pulled into every emotional storm. You listen more carefully. You speak more slowly. You choose more deliberately. You recover faster when something unsettles you. My beloved child, steadiness has a quiet influence. It changes the atmosphere around decisions. It helps you become safer for yourself and for people who genuinely depend on you. But do not turn steadiness into another performance. You will still have moments when you react badly. You will still become overwhelmed. You will still need to apologize, reset, and begin again. The shield I am describing is not perfection. It is awareness strong enough to help you return. Return to truth. Return to calm. Return to responsibility. Return to the next wise step. My beloved child, I want you to understand how different this is from fear. Fear scans the room looking for proof that something terrible is about to happen. Awareness looks at reality and asks what deserves attention. Fear assumes. Awareness investigates. Fear rushes. Awareness pauses. Fear makes everything feel equally urgent. Awareness creates order. This difference will matter in the days ahead. You may face conversations you did not expect. Plans may change. Someone may disappoint you. A decision may require more patience than you wanted. My beloved child, let awareness hold you steady. Do not let one uncomfortable moment convince you that everything is falling apart. Look again, gather facts, notice patterns, pray, ask for counsel when needed, then respond to what is real. This is how peace becomes a shield. You are not powerless when pressure rises. You can slow your breathing and remember what you know. Separate facts from fear and choose the response that protects truth, responsibility, and peace today. Not by keeping life from touching you, by keeping every touch from controlling you. My beloved child, the more you practice this, the less fear will be able to tell you what every situation means. Understanding will begin replacing assumption. Clarity will begin replacing panic. You will start noticing that you have more choice than you once believed. And that is where I want to take you next. You have been learning how to stay awake without becoming afraid. Now it is time to understand how everything you have gathered through this journey can become a steadier way of seeing, choosing, and moving forward. My beloved child, the next step is learning to let understanding replace fear. My beloved child, you have been learning how to stay awake without becoming afraid. That matters more than you realize. Awareness was never meant to keep you tense. It was meant to help you see clearly so fear doesn't get the last word on every uncertain moment for you. Something inside you has already shifted. But you are not listening the same way you were before. You are asking better questions. You are noticing patterns sooner. You are pausing before reacting. You are beginning to understand that pressure does not remove your ability to choose. My beloved child, that is the beginning of steadiness. Steadiness doesn't mean you stop feeling anything. It is the ability to feel emotion without handing it full control. You can be concerned and still think clearly. You can be disappointed and still act wisely. You can be uncertain and still refuse to panic. You can feel fear and still choose truth. It gives your mind another place to stand. Before, fear often rushed in and filled every unanswered space. If someone became quiet, fear said they were leaving. If a plan changed, fear said everything was falling apart. If a door closed, fear said you had missed your chance. If you felt tired, fear said you were failing. My beloved child, fear speaks quickly because it does not like investigation. Understanding slows the story down. It asks what actually happened. It separates what you know from what you assume. It remembers what you have survived. It considers more than one explanation. It waits for enough truth before reaching a conclusion. That is why understanding makes you stronger. Remember the disciples in the storm with Jesus. The wind was real. The waves were real. Their fear was real. But fear convinced them that danger meant they had been abandoned. They had not been abandoned. My beloved child, difficult circumstances can be real without every fearful interpretation being true. You don't have to pretend the storm isn't there. You only need to stop letting fear tell you what the storm means before truth can speak. There will still be moments when your first reaction is anxious. Do not shame yourself for that. Your nervous system learned certain responses through experience. The goal is to create enough space between reaction and decision that wisdom can enter. Name what you feel, then ask what you know. My beloved child, this practice is simple, but it is powerful. Fear says I have to fix this immediately. Understanding says I can take one wise step. Fear says everything depends on this one moment. Understanding says this moment matters, but it is not the whole story. Fear says if I disappoint someone, I will lose everything. Understanding says healthy relationships can survive honesty and boundaries. Fear says I am powerless. Understanding says I still have choices. My beloved child, do not underestimate that last truth. You have more agency than fear has allowed you to see. You may not control another person's behavior. You may not control the economy. You may not control timing. You may not control whether every door opens, but you can choose how honestly you respond. You can choose whether to ask for help. You can choose whether to stay in a harmful pattern. You can choose whether to rest before making a major decision. You can choose whether to keep feeding a thought that has no evidence. You can choose whether to speak truth or keep shrinking. That is not total control. It is responsibility. And responsibility is one of the ways power returns to your hands. My beloved child, I do not want you living as though every difficult thing is unstoppable. Some situations will require courage you do not yet feel. But many things can be met one decision at a time, one boundary, one conversation, one phone call, one appointment, one honest prayer, one night of rest, one choice not to return to what already proved destructive. Understanding breaks overwhelming problems into faithful steps. This is why fear loses some of its authority when clarity grows. You begin to see that you do not have to solve the whole future tonight. You only need to respond wisely to what is actually in front of you. My beloved child, remember how often confusion made you believe you needed certainty before you could move. Now you are learning something different. You can move with enough understanding, not perfect understanding. You can gather facts, seek counsel, pray, observe patterns, then make the best responsible choice available to you. It is also humility because you accept that you may need to adjust later. My beloved child, there is strength in being willing to correct course. Fear often tells you that changing your mind means you failed. Understanding knows that new information can require a wiser response. You are allowed to learn. You are allowed to say, I see this differently now. You are allowed to admit that something you once defended is no longer healthy. You are allowed to leave a plan that no longer fits the truth in front of you. That flexibility is not weakness, it is growth. And growth has already been happening in you throughout this journey. You stopped long enough to listen. You examined what was familiar. You recognized exhaustion. You remembered that silent prayers were heard. You looked at people and patterns. You protected peace. You received hope. You made room for rest. You reconsidered relationships. You looked toward a new path. You remembered the gifts within you. You became wiser about trust. You decided not to return to old habits. You began building awareness into peace. My beloved child, none of those lessons are separate. They are forming a steadier way of living, a mind that does not surrender immediately to panic, a heart that can remain soft without becoming careless, a life that can move forward without pretending uncertainty has disappeared. This is what I want you to carry, not fear of making a mistake, not pressure to perform every lesson perfectly. Carry understanding. Carry the knowledge that you can pause. Carry the memory that you have choices. Carry the wisdom that patterns matter. Carry the confidence that truth can be faced without destroying you. My beloved child, tomorrow will still be ordinary. There may be messages to answer, work to do, people to deal with, decisions that seem small. That is exactly where this understanding must go next. Not only into a quiet moment like this, into the morning, into your schedule, into the conversation you have been avoiding, into the boundary you need to keep, into the thought you need to question before believing it. My beloved child, fear becomes weaker when understanding becomes practice, and practice happens in ordinary life. So do not leave these truths here when this moment ends. Take them with you. That is where I want to take you next. This is how to carry what you have learned into an ordinary tomorrow where real change shows up through the choices you keep making after the feelings from this moment have passed. My beloved child, now that understanding has begun to replace fear, I want you to carry what you have learned beyond this quiet moment. The deeper work begins when tomorrow arrives, with its noise, responsibilities, messages, decisions, and people pulling on your attention. Do not leave this understanding behind. Carry it into the morning. Carry it into the first conversation. Carry it into the moment when pressure returns and asks you to forget what you already know. My beloved child, change is rarely proven by one emotional night. It becomes visible through repeated choices after the feeling has passed. You may wake tomorrow and feel ordinary. That does not mean nothing happened. You may still have the same job, the same home, the same responsibilities, the same unresolved question, but you can meet those things differently. Maybe you pause before answering a message that usually triggers you. Maybe you notice the urge to explain yourself and choose a calmer response. Maybe you recognize exhaustion earlier and decide to rest before resentment grows. Maybe you look at a familiar pattern and say, I do not have to repeat this today. My beloved child, this is how truth enters daily life. Not always through dramatic change, through practice, through repetition, through small moments where a wiser response becomes possible. Think about Israel gathering manna in the wilderness. They received what was needed for the day in front of them. They were not asked to carry every future day at once. You do not need enough strength today for every challenge that may come next month. You need enough grace and clarity for what is actually before you now. My beloved child, let tomorrow be tomorrow. When morning comes, ask questions. What is mine to carry today? What needs attention? What can wait? Where do I need honesty? Where do I need restraint? Where do I need help? Fear likes to combine everything. Understanding separates what is real from what is imagined. My beloved child, doubt may return. Expect that without fearing it. A difficult conversation may make you question whether your new boundary was wise. Someone may misunderstand you. A plan may not work as expected. An old memory may suddenly feel close again. Do not treat the return of doubt as proof that you have lost your progress. Doubt is a visitor. It does not have to become your leader. When it comes, return to what you know. Return to the facts. Return to the pattern you already observed. Return to the reason you made the decision. Return to prayer. Return to wise counsel if you need it. My beloved child, truth does not become false because your emotions become unsettled. This is why I want you to let what you have learned settle slowly. Do not rush to apply everything at once. A dry field does not become healthy because one heavy rain falls quickly. The rain runs away across the surface. What matters is what reaches the roots. Let these truths reach your roots. You are allowed to practice one lesson before adding another. Maybe this week you focus on pausing before reacting. Maybe you protect sleep. Maybe you stop reopening one draining conversation. Maybe you ask for help with something you have carried alone. My beloved child, one faithful practice repeated beats 10 promises forgotten. I want what you have learned to become usable, not inspirational for one evening. Usable on a Tuesday morning when you are tired. Usable during a disagreement. Usable when an unexpected bill arrives. Usable when loneliness makes an old door look attractive again. Usable when someone pressures you for an answer before you are ready. That is where wisdom proves its value. My beloved child, I am not present only in moments that feel spiritual. I am with you in the ordinary hours, when you make breakfast, when you drive to work, when you sit quietly before sending a difficult message, when you choose rest instead of proving how much you can endure. There is no part of your ordinary day too small for honesty, prayer, wisdom, and peace. My beloved child, faith can live inside ordinary repetition. Do the work. Answer what needs answering. Rest when it is time to rest, and carry truth with you while you do it. There may be moments tomorrow when you wonder whether any of this was real. The emotional clarity may feel farther away. Do not chase the feeling. Return to the principle. You know now that not every urgent thought deserves obedience. You know patterns matter. You know boundaries can be loving. You know exhaustion can distort judgment. You know being unseen by people does not make you unseen by me. You know peace deserves protection. You know you can pause. My beloved child, those truths remain useful even when they do not feel dramatic. This is how understanding becomes part of your character. It becomes available before panic has time to take over. And when you forget, begin again. Do not turn one reactive moment into a reason to abandon the whole process. If you speak too quickly, apologize. If you overcommit, adjust. If you return to an old habit, notice it sooner. If fear wins one moment, let wisdom answer the next. My beloved child, growth is not a straight line. It is a pattern of returning. Returning to truth. Returning to peace. Returning to responsibility. Returning to me. The ordinary hours will teach you more about your growth than one powerful moment ever can. Watch what happens when nobody is reminding you. Watch what you choose when there is no emotional music around the decision. Watch whether you keep the boundary when loneliness rises. Watch whether you rest before collapse. Watch whether you ask better questions when pressure appears. My beloved child, do not turn this into another performance. You are not being graded every hour. You are learning, and learning needs patience. I will not disappear when you struggle to apply what you heard. I am not leaving the moment this message moves into silence. My presence is not tied to the sound of these words. I remain with you when the room becomes ordinary again. I remain with you in the decisions of the coming days. I remain with you when you feel clear and when you need to find clarity again. My beloved child, you do not have to hold every lesson tightly through fear of losing it. Let truth become familiar through practice. Let it become the way you return when life pulls you off center. And as you carry this into tomorrow, you may notice another burden still hanging from your hands. The need to control what has not yet been resolved. The need to know how every unfinished part will turn out. The fear that if you loosen your grip, everything will fall apart. My beloved child, that is the next place I want to meet you. You have learned how to carry truth forward. Now you must learn how to loosen your grip while trusting what is still unfolding. My beloved child, you've learned to carry truth into ordinary tomorrows. Now I want to meet you where truth sometimes gets hard to practice. You know that feeling. The need to know what happens next. The need to make sure no one leaves. The need to solve a problem before you sleep. The need to keep checking, planning, adjusting, and preparing because part of you believes that if you loosen your grip, everything will fall apart. My beloved child, control can seem like safety after uncertainty has already hurt you. You tell yourself that if you think hard enough, prepare enough, or watch closely enough, you can prevent disappointment. But there's a difference between preparation and hauling tomorrow around like it's already here. You were never asked to hold every future outcome in your hands. My beloved child, peace grows when you stop measuring faithfulness by how tightly you hold everything together. Measure it instead by how honestly you respond to what today actually requires. There are questions you still do not have answers for. A financial concern may not be resolved. A decision may still be waiting for more clarity. A prayer may still seem unanswered. My beloved child, unfinished does not mean abandoned. Some things are still unfolding. And when something's unfolding, forcing it open too early usually breeds more confusion than clarity. Think about a farmer after planting seed. There is work to do. The ground can be tended. Water can be given. Weeds can be removed. But the farmer can't pull the seed up every morning to make sure it's growing. Your responsibility is to remain faithful with what is actually yours to do. This is where surrender becomes practical. Surrender does not mean doing nothing. It does not mean ignoring responsibilities. It does not mean refusing to plan. Surrender means recognizing the line between what belongs in your hands and what does not. You can make the appointment. You cannot control the result. You can speak honestly. You cannot control how another person responds. You can prepare carefully. You cannot guarantee that every plan will succeed. You can apologize. You cannot force reconciliation. You can pray. You cannot command timing. My beloved child, when you confuse responsibility with control, you carry weight that was never meant to stay on your shoulders. You became the person who held things together. You learned to anticipate problems before anyone else noticed them. Those skills may have helped you get through hard seasons, but survival skills can become burdens when you never learn when to set them down. My beloved child, you do not have to monitor everything in order to be safe. You do not have to keep everyone comfortable in order to be loved. You do not have to know every answer before taking one honest step. Remember Jesus sleeping in the boat while the storm raged around him. The storm was real. The disciples were afraid. But his rest revealed something important. Peace does not require control over every visible condition. It means you can face reality without making constant control your only source of security. There are moments when the most faithful thing you can do is stop. Put the phone down, leave the unanswered message until morning, close the spreadsheet. Step away from the conversation before frustration makes your words careless. Say, I have done what I can for today. Then rest. My beloved child, busyness can sometimes become a way of avoiding surrender. If you keep moving, you do not have to feel uncertainty. If you keep solving, you do not have to admit that some things are beyond you. If you keep planning, you can postpone the vulnerable sentence, I do not know what happens next. But I am not frightened by that sentence. Bring it to me. I do not know. I cannot fix this tonight. I need help. I am afraid. My beloved child, those words can become prayer. You do not need to disguise uncertainty as confidence. You do not need to perform certainty for me. Some parts of your life may remain unclear for longer than you want. Do not let that uncertainty erase everything that is already clear. You know what kind of person you want to become. You know which patterns have harmed your peace. You know the boundaries you need. You know that exhaustion makes your judgment weaker. You know that truth deserves more weight than pressure. My beloved child, live from what you know while you wait for what you do not know. That is trust. Not pretending the future is certain. Not declaring that everything will happen exactly as you hope. Trust is allowing unanswered questions to remain unanswered without letting them consume your whole life. There are things I can carry that you cannot. The timing of another person's growth. The doors that may open later. The things you cannot yet understand about why one season ended and another has not fully begun. My beloved child, let those things leave your hands. You can care without carrying everything. You can hope without gripping. You can pray without repeatedly checking whether the answer has arrived. You can love someone without trying to manage their entire journey. You can prepare for the future without living there before it comes. It is making room for peace. And when your hands begin to loosen, you may notice how tired they were from holding what could never be controlled. You may notice that your breathing changes. Your thoughts become less crowded. You begin to recognize what actually needs your attention and what only demanded attention, because fear kept repeating it. My beloved child, let tomorrow have some unopened pages. You do not need to read them tonight. The same faithfulness that carried you through what is behind you can meet you in what is ahead. You are not standing at the end of the story. You are standing inside a transition, and transitions rarely explain themselves completely while you are living through them. Later you may understand more. For now, stay present. Do what is yours. Release what is not. Rest when the day is done. Return to truth when fear tries to take the weight back. My beloved child, loosening your grip may feel unfamiliar at first. Control has been one of the ways you tried to protect yourself. Be patient with that discomfort. You are learning another kind of strength. The strength to remain responsible without pretending you are sovereign over every outcome. The strength to wait without turning waiting into panic. The strength to let some things unfold without forcing a conclusion. And as you learn this, you may one day look back and recognize that this was the moment your direction began to change. Not because every circumstance changed overnight, because you stopped carrying the future as though it belonged entirely to you. My beloved child, that is where I want to take you next. To remember the moment when your inner direction began turning toward something steadier, freer, and more faithful. My beloved child, you are standing at the beginning of something, not the end of it. The weight you carried into this journey may still exist in pieces. You are not carrying it the same way anymore. Something inside you has shifted. You slowed down. You listened. You questioned what once felt automatic. You named patterns you had tolerated. You remembered that exhaustion was not failure. You began protecting your peace instead of handing it over to every demand. My beloved child, do not dismiss those changes because they happened quietly. Not every turning point kicks up a fuss. Sometimes, a life changes direction in a moment that looks ordinary from the outside. A person decides not to send the message they would have sent before. Someone chooses to rest instead of pushing until resentment takes over. A boundary is kept. An old habit is interrupted. A truth is finally admitted. My beloved child, those moments can look small, but direction is often changed by small choices repeated faithfully. Think about a ship turning at sea. The movement of the wheel may be slight compared with the size of the ocean. Given enough distance, that small change leads somewhere completely different. That is how I want you to understand what has been happening in you. You may not wake tomorrow feeling transformed. You may still have old thoughts, old temptations, old fears, but you now have another response available. There was a time when fear spoke and you obeyed quickly. Now you know how to pause. There was a time when loneliness could pull you back toward what had already hurt you. Now you know that loneliness does not automatically mean you should reopen the door. There was a time when pressure made you believe you had to answer immediately. Now you know that wisdom can wait. My beloved child, remember this moment when the old pattern tries to tell you nothing has changed. Remember that you stopped long enough to hear what was happening inside you. Remember that you became willing to look at what you had avoided. Remember that you chose understanding over panic. You chose boundaries over resentment and responsibility over control. You may not understand the full meaning of that choice yet. Remember Ruth standing at the edge of a future she could not fully see. Her next step did not come with a complete explanation of everything ahead. She simply chose faithfulness in the place before her. Only later did the larger shape of her story become visible. My beloved child, you do not need to know today which moment will become important in hindsight. You only need to recognize that faithful choices have direction. A quiet yes to truth matters. A quiet no to what drains you matters. A decision to ask for help matters. A decision to forgive without returning to an unhealthy pattern matters. A decision to stop pretending you are fine matters. Do not leave this journey thinking you now have to produce dramatic evidence that you changed. Let change become visible through consistency. Let the people around you notice that you react differently. Let your home feel the difference because you bring less panic into it. Let your conversations feel different because you listen before defending yourself. Let your work feel different. Stop carrying every task as though your worth depends on exhaustion. My beloved child, quiet strength reaches farther than you think. The people you love may feel the difference before you know how to explain it. You do not need to announce any of this. Let the fruit speak. My beloved child, some of the people you carry in prayer may also be affected by the way you change. Not because you can control their choices, not because your growth guarantees their healing, but because one steady person can change the atmosphere of a relationship. When you stop feeding an argument, the pattern has less fuel. When you stop rescuing someone from every consequence, they have more room to face responsibility. When you stop hiding your needs, honesty enters the relationship. When you protect your peace, others must decide how they will respond to the healthier version of you. My beloved child, this is influence without control. You can become different without demanding that everyone around you change at the same speed. That is part of maturity. Do not turn your turning point into another way of measuring other people. Stay focused on your own faithfulness. What are you choosing? What are you practicing? What are you carrying forward? There will be days when the shift feels strong. There will be days when it feels invisible. A road does not disappear because fog covers it for a morning. My beloved child, return to what you know when emotion becomes unclear. You know that your worth is not created by approval. You know that peace deserves protection. You know that every open door does not require entry. You know that every uncomfortable feeling does not require panic. You know that truth can survive careful examination. You know that you can release what is too heavy for your hands. Let those truths become markers along the road. The Israelites sometimes built memorials after crossing difficult places so future generations would remember what had happened there. My beloved child, you may need your own kind of memorial, a reminder that says, this is where I stopped living on automatic. This is where I began choosing with clearer eyes. This is where fear stopped receiving the final vote. Not because memory makes you perfect, because memory keeps you from romanticizing what you already learned was costly. My beloved child, there may still be unresolved parts of your life when this message ends. Do not let that discourage you. A turning point does not require every circumstance to change immediately. Sometimes the first change is internal. You breathe differently. You think differently. You stop carrying what was never yours. You notice what once escaped you. Then over time, those inner changes influence outer decisions. That is how direction changes. Slowly enough that you may miss it while it is happening. Clearly enough that one day you look back and recognize the road behind you no longer leads where it used to. My beloved child, honor that beginning. Do not worship the moment. Do not make tonight magical. Simply recognize the choice you are making. To stay awake, to stay honest, to remain teachable, to move with trust rather than fear. And now there is one final step. You cannot spend forever standing at the turning point looking backward. A moment of change only becomes a new direction when you begin walking. My beloved child, carry the quiet strength you have built. Carry your boundaries. Carry your discernment. Carry your willingness to rest. Ask, wait, speak, and release. Then step forward without needing the whole road explained. That is where I want to take you next. Not back into fear, not into dramatic promises. Into a steady life where trust becomes movement, peace becomes practice, and quiet strength becomes the way you walk forward from here. My beloved child, you have reached the place where a turning point has to start moving. You have seen how fear lost some of its authority, how peace became something worth protecting, and how truth began to shape your choices more than pressure did. Now I want you to walk forward, not quickly, not loudly, not trying to prove that you have become someone new. Walk with trust, walk with quiet strength. My beloved child, quiet strength does not need an audience. It does not need everyone to understand your decisions. It does not need constant reassurance that you are on the right path. Quiet strength knows how to pause. It knows how to ask questions. It knows how to leave a harmful pattern without turning departure into revenge. It knows how to stay kind without becoming available to everything. It knows how to rest without calling rest failure. This is the strength I want you to carry into whatever the morning brings. There will still be ordinary responsibilities. There will still be people who misunderstand you. You can carry one concern without carrying every possible outcome. You can face one problem without telling yourself that everything is falling apart. You can enter one difficult conversation without rehearsing 10 imagined disasters before it begins. Trust gives you enough room to stay present. Remember Joshua. He stood before a road he had never walked. Courage was not offered to him because the road would be easy. Courage was needed because responsibility remained while certainty did not. My beloved child, that is a useful picture for you now. You do not need to know everything ahead. You need enough courage to take the next faithful step without returning to fear as your guide. Take your boundaries with you. Take your discernment. Take what you learned about exhaustion. Take what you learned about trust. Take what you learned about people whose words and patterns do not agree. Take what you learned about rest, provision, silence, and unfinished prayers. Do not leave those lessons behind simply because this message is ending. Let them become part of the way you live. My beloved child, when pressure rises again, remember that you can slow down. When someone demands an answer before you are a baguette ready, remember that waiting is sometimes wisdom. When loneliness makes an old door look attractive, remember what that door cost you. When a new opportunity appears, remember that hope and discernment can walk together. When you feel tired, remember that exhaustion is information, not a moral failure. This is how quiet strength protects you. It does not promise that nothing difficult will happen. It gives you a steadier way to meet difficulty when it comes, and as you walk, do not make your growth another performance. You do not have to announce every boundary. You do not have to explain every healed response. You do not have to show everyone that you are stronger now. Let consistency speak. Let your family notice that you react differently. Let your friends notice that you listen without immediately trying to control the outcome. Let the people you love notice that you are more present because you are no longer spending all your energy fighting imagined futures. My beloved child, quiet strength can reach beyond you, not because you can save everyone, not because your growth guarantees that another person will change, but because peace changes the way you enter a room. Patience changes the way you speak. Boundaries change the patterns you participate in. Honesty changes what relationships are able to hide. Your choices have influence. Use that influence with humility. Do not make yourself responsible for changing the people you love. Show them what steadiness looks like. Let them make their own choices. Pray for them. Love them. Speak truth when needed. Then release what belongs to them. My beloved child, this is another form of trust. You are not walking forward to become the controller of a better future. You are walking forward as a faithful participant in the life before you. There is freedom in that. You can work without bowing to achievement. You can love without worshiping another person. You can plan without worshiping certainty. You can hope without demanding a guarantee. You can pray without turning prayer into a transaction. You can receive good things. Don't read them as proof you are finally worthy. Your worth was never parked on some big breakthrough, and I remain near. The end of this message does not mean the end of my presence. When the room becomes quiet, I remain. When morning comes, I remain. When you forget part of what you learned, return. When you make a mistake, return. When you become tired, return. When something good happens, return with gratitude. My beloved child, relationship with me is not maintained by perfect performance. It is sustained through honesty, trust, humility, and return. So walk forward without carrying the pressure to do everything perfectly. My beloved child, take one step, then another when it becomes clear. Let the morning bring what the morning brings. Meet it prayerfully. Meet it with open eyes. Meet it with a heart that no longer needs fear to stay alert. You have heard enough to begin, not enough to predict every future event. Enough to choose differently. Enough to protect peace. Enough to recognize patterns. Enough to ask for help. Enough to loosen your grip. Enough to carry quiet strength into ordinary life, my beloved child. That is where transformation becomes real, not only in what you feel while listening, in how you live after the words grow quiet. So when you step away from this moment, do not look for a dramatic sign that everything has changed. Look at your next choice. Let that choice carry the truth you received. If you need to apologize, apologize. If you need to rest, rest. If you need to keep a boundary, keep it. If you need to ask for wisdom, ask. If you need to release what you cannot control, release it. My beloved child, walk forward in trust rather than fear. Carry peace into whatever the morning brings. Carry humility into what you do not know. Carry courage into what you do know. Carry compassion without losing discernment. Carry hope without abandoning responsibility. And when you need a simple prayer for the road ahead, let it be this: guide me in truth. Keep my heart soft and my judgment clear. Give me courage for what belongs in my hands and peace about what does not. Help me walk faithfully without rushing ahead or running backward. My beloved child, receive that peace now. Then go live what you have learned. Let your amen be more than a word. Let it become a quiet yes to truth, wisdom, rest, courage, and trust. Walk forward. I am with you. Amen.